Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring, let we rule them all. Hope you remember your thoughts. Get your Uru feathers and your Needler guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel if it will get you to count. To the pit, tank. To the pit, tank. The Rocky Mountain pit, tank.
Hi, I'm Guy,
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Alex.
and this is Geek Tank.
Your I just swapped the boxes around size podcast.
I got blood taken from me. I got stabbed right here.
Yeah, but you volunteered. It's not
Oh,
the
that's true. So, this is we were looking at the Will Smith controversy last night, and there's been some interesting discussions from our friends out there. And
Hello, Brent. And to back up before Guy dives into this, like for those who do not know, since this only just happened last night.
well, I was going to actually give before we get there. I was going to say this is going to be a heavy topic.
Okay,
So that was where I was headed on this one. So I'm
it
noticing
sounded like you were jumping
hello to
ahead.
me. He's mad at Brent's mad at me because I didn't have my show this morning because I got stabbed right here.
You sure you didn't just have the the caps lock
Good
on?
morning, Brent. Yeah, it actually wasn't as bad either, except that it burned when they pulled it out. That was weird. I've never had that happen before.
No comment.
It was really weird. It was like a little burning sensation. I was like, wow, I got needle gonorrhea. Anyway,
So
okay,
yeah,
so-
a thing happened last night that was really heavy, and the topic could go to some dark places, and not your typical Jar Jar Binks is a horrible character podcast.
So be just being ornery.
I suppose the correct way too is just to say this could contain trigger words and
Information.
topics, because
Trigger topics.
just talking about the subject, if somebody's involved in a situation like this, it can trigger bad emotions and such. So
be
there.
cognizant and beware. Warning. Okay, now Troy, if you would like to give us some background.
Sure. For those who do not know, the Oscars were last night, and there was an incident where one of the hosts, Chris Rock, had made a joke, and the joke had offended Will. So I'm laughing at the Jar Jar as a Sith Lord thing. I'm not laughing at this what I'm talking about. So Will Smith took the stage and slapped Chris Rock, turned around and left, and shouted. I don't have the quote in front of me, but it was something similar to keep my wife's name out of your expletive mouth. So that happened, and I've been trying to find more information on it, like for one, to confirm that it was actually a real slap and not staged or anything.
Why are we doing this?
Oh wow, Guy's activated his show.
Yeah, I pushed one of the buttons on my control console apparently,
And then the ship crashed.
and then everything crashed. What's going on?
Yeah. So, any case, what I was curious about that I only just found out because I finally found the reference is what the joke was. And it was Chris Rock had said to Jada Pinkett Smith, Jada can't wait for G.I. Jane 2, referencing that she had her head shaved. And she had shaved her head because she's suffering from hair loss, so she just decided to go ahead and shave it since that looks better than having it spotted. And I was sensitive to the subject, and I've found two different descriptions here, so I don't know if Will Smith initially was instantly offended by the joke, or if he was not initially offended but saw that Jada was offended and then stepped forward, which is one of the ways that they described it. So the question here is, at what level, because obviously you should keep your hands to yourself, because that's just
Except when you're dealing with Alex.
But when is a slap justified? as an initial thing, or as Guy was saying, is like, why didn't he just punch him then? Why
Yeah,
stop at
I
a
mean,
slap?
like if I were to be, let's just say I'm mad at Alex. I'm mad at Alex.
You're
I'm going
dead.
to punch him, not slap him. If I slap him, this starts the, Alex and I are going to go duel in the backyard sort of thing. That was a very weird response. So I'm not sure. I guess what I'm trying to say is a slap is more of an insult. It's less of a beat down. You know what I mean? Like in our culture and in the cultures that we've set up all along for the history of our cultures, if I were to slap Alex, it'd be more like a you did something wrong, like sort of thing, as opposed to punching him, which would be more like you did something wrong, but I intend to make you feel pain. I don't know. It felt really weird that.
I mean,
not like I
taking
thought
from what you
either of
said
the
as an
responses
insult,
was
as what you're saying as an insult, maybe he was returning the insult with an insult, and that's why a punch might have been
right.
elevated too high.
But what a like 1860s response, right? I mean, like starts the duel of the fates here.
Vile calumny.
I'm gonna speculate. I think alcohol was involved.
Probably. So the observation that a buddy of mine made online was that there is a history in there of between Jada and Will that's not good, and we've been seeing it aired out in public. And my friend speculates that it's spousal abuse coming from Jada towards Will. I'm about to say my mom.
Your mom.
My mom used to talk about patterns repeating and how if you don't break a cycle, you will repeat the cycle. And Will was abused as a child. And I don't think we talk enough about the fact that men aren't always the abusers. And they sometimes, when they're repeating cycles, they'll still pick an abuser if they were abused as a child, because that's comfortable. I know that sounds really strange. And that was something that I remember my mom specifically saying was they're comfortable with being abused because it's something that's familiar to them. So they'll pick up an abusive spouse. And the way that our culture is structured, people don't detect spousal abuse as much from women to men as they do from men to women, because it's obvious when men beat on women, they come in with black eyes, they come in with broken fingers, things like that. It's obvious something is happening, whereas going the other direction is rarely physical. I mean, it does get physical from time to time, but a lot of the time it's mental. And
Well, even just the physical has a mental toll. I don't know how much I told you about this, but I'm not going to mention names because parties are still alive involved in what had happened, and until they're all dead, I'm not mentioning names. But I've witnessed firsthand, not to me, but I've seen physical spousal abuse from female to male. And from my experience, what it is, it's just the majority of people disbelieve it can happen because men are stronger, and they fall into this mindset of like, well, why don't they just stop them? And it's like, because there's love involved, and also they don't want to hurt the other person. So it's but yeah, there is.
Donald's saying sort of what I'm talking about down there. He slapped him because it was Jada. If it had been him that was insulted, he would have hit him with a fist. And I think that's probably what I'm trying to convey.
He probably wouldn't have been insulted because being a comedian,
that's the thing. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm speculating.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to downgrade that.
But I was just adding.
Donald, I think Donald hit it. What I was trying.
I was just adding to what you were saying, that it's not just that it's mental, but there are physical, but you don't see the bruises as much. And I think a lot of, in fact, I'm recalling now someone that you and I both know has told us before about their previous marriage that they were in, and which luckily they got out of it. That fella was in a physical abusive relationship where his spouse was abusing him. And it's people just don't want to. There's an embarrassment there too.
It's an
that you
embarrassment.
don't
Yeah.
want to.
I mean, and I think it happens more in the geek culture because we're not jocks. You know what I mean? Like jocks are bigger and bulkier, and they've spent more time working out and things like that. We didn't. Um, and I'm not saying that it never happens or anything like that. I'm just saying I think that you would find more physical abuse probably occurs in the geek culture from female to male simply because we're not as big and bulky by the nature of what we do. Um, there are very few Alexes in our group who spend all of their time doing sword fighting. So it's one of those things that I think you'd probably find it more in our culture, which makes it this, hey, look, I brought it back to geeks. I'm just saying, look at me, I'm doing the right thing.
I'm gonna just jump in here and say that's speculation.
It is total speculation. All of this is
So I would,
speculation.
but I mean, so if you say like, oh well, we're not jocks and therefore we don't have as much abuse, or it's more female abuse on male abuse. That's
yes,
I'm sure there's studies about it, but we don't know.
Part of my brain, in the back part of my brain, also says that there is a class of male who is big and bulky and doesn't know what to do with females, and therefore they are also very susceptible to the abuse. And that makes it even worse to some degree because they're big and huge and they're still getting hit. So some part of my brain, probably something that my mom had said at some point in time, there was abuse from male or from female to male in my family. And for the same reasons that Troy is not mentioning names, I won't mention names either in case my family is watching. There was that kind of abuse that I observed as well. And a lot of this that I know about that my mom was going through was deconstructing sort of why bits and pieces of that, why it was happening, and what was going on. And it's interesting because in a way I can kind of see that there's a certain amount of justification, and I don't mean this in a it's okay, just a I understand where it came from, justification to the embarrassment of where where it all comes from. Yeah, the Marines. So justification of where this embarrassment came from, because I remember discussions with various family members that felt that the male in that particular relationship was a wimp or a pushover, or there were words involved like that, that were said under their breath quietly but still said. And I can't imagine that particular individual wasn't aware, was not aware of that.
Yeah, that's victim blaming.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean,
like,
I can see that causing the effect of I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want you guys to call me a wimp or a wuss or whatever.
nobody wants to admit to being abused.
Nobody wants to admit to
Well,
being
it's also because they love the person,
Yeah.
even though their
Well-
love for them will not want that. They view telling on them as a betrayal, and they think that they can fix them.
right. Well, and as Mom had said, it's comfortable, even though it sounds counterintuitive. It's comfortable. It's home. I mean, if you think about some of the other things that we do in our life, I eat poorly. Why do I eat at Taco Bell? Because it's comfortable. Do I know that Taco Bell is bad for me? Yes, absolutely. But then I have a bad day. I have a lousy day and I want Taco Bell and I eat Taco Bell, even though I know that all I'm doing is adding to my problems in life. So we often do things that are, and we fool ourselves by saying things like, well, maybe it won't hurt this time. Maybe this time we can avoid it. Maybe this time it won't be so bad. And things like that. I've been very lucky. I didn't have abusive parents, and I don't have an abusive spouse. And actually, I don't even have abusive friends. I've been very blessed, because I count myself like looking at this situation, but I have had abuse in my friend group, externally, like Troy was talking about, one of our mutuals. And I've had abuse in my family, just not at me. So just like Troy, the same thing where, we saw it happening. We saw it going down. We knew it was wrong, and we remember it because it traumatized us. But I've been really lucky in that instance.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this about my mom.
Your mom.
There you go. But she was a victim advocate in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she also was worked in Camp Lejeune, helping with the Marines there. But she was shocked at the amount of abuse and stuff that happens within the military community. But I was explaining to her, I'm like, well, military, not always, but tends to draw people who are combative in their mindset, and they're looking for ways to, I mean, that's why they join the military.
Right.
They're
It makes sense.
Yeah. And it's this very stressful job. And much like with the fire department and police department, they have issues as well. Not that it doesn't justify what they're doing. What it is that they need to be put more under a microscope and offered the help that they need to break their cycle of being abusive, of those people who are abusive. And for anyone being abused, I have this here. I'm going to fire it off. It's going to hit all of our Twitter, Facebook, and that. If you do find yourself in a situation, there is an 800 number you can call to seek help in that. And is there? Yeah, I'll do that too, just in case anybody's watching this. So the hardest part, I think, for this, just like it is with a lot of people who are depressed, is reaching out for that help. And it's you're worth it. You deserve to get the help from these situations. So
I think the big thing that my mom had also added, and this is important, is staying in the relationship isn't just bad for you. It's bad for the other person, because the other person cannot get better until they can get help. And so staying in it, in order to keep it the same, in order to keep it the way it is, hurts both people, not just you, but the one you love. So it's important to get out and get them help and get you help. So that's critical. And so that's a very important thing. Talk to your friends and be aware that the important point is to get assistance. So they're going to tell, and that's okay. That's what should happen. It needs to happen for both people to get better. So that's an important piece, because I think a lot of people do the I don't want to tell, because if I tell, then they'll go to jail. They don't have to go to jail. They can go get help. They can get assistance. They can go see a therapist. They can get their aggravation out. Usually it's just a pattern. I'll bet you we haven't heard about it because Jada hasn't talked about it much herself. Will has been very open about his abuse from his father. Jada hasn't, but I'll bet you that if you were to look into her history, you'd find that she was abused too. So that's usually a repeating pattern.
Well, that's also one I haven't seen anything related to her being abusive to Will. That's
what I'm saying. It's like we don't even know that that's the case. We don't know what's going on. This is entirely speculative based on a friend of mine who I know has been in abusive, not abusive relationships per se. I don't know if she's been into an abusive relationship, but she's cognizant and aware, and she's an advocate. So she's trained and understands what's going on. So to some degree, she understands what's happening and she senses it. And I have to admit, the way Will's acting triggers the same things to me that I remember my mom seeing when she would see on TV, and she would say creepy things like, that person's being abused, or that person is going to crack and go off the deep end. She was able to just see in their demeanor and the way they handled themselves that they were like, she picked on Rob Lowe before Rob Lowe's whole thing happened. That was the one I remember really creepily, because she was like, she saw Rob Lowe and she's like, I don't like him. I think there's something wrong with him. He's doing something. And sure enough, 2 years later or whatever, he had that first scandal. She still didn't like him after that. So whatever happened didn't fix it in her mind's eye.
Yeah, unfortunately, as far as therapy goes, therapy only works if the person getting into therapy is putting a good faith effort to have it work.
Also
and
true.
most people don't want, most people who don't, some people will go into therapy in bad faith just to say they're doing it, but most people just avoid it. Let's see here. Yeah, and not, I mean, the vast majority of people are not abusers across the board. I mean, you might see some upticks here and there, but I was just looking here at some of the comments. Also, that they're partying in a month. Yeah, maybe. I'm sure that Chris Rock and Will Smith know each other. I'm sure they have a relationship before this. They'll have some kind of relationship after it. Looking at also like slapping versus punching. When's the last time you punched someone in the face barehanded?
Oof. It hurts.
It hurts. It hurts your hand. There's a lot more meat in my palm that can absorb damage. And also, I mean, there's also that, but we have this perception, oh, the punch is much more serious. And it can be. Will Smith, I mean, I'm not him. I don't know what he said about this. I was thinking about this, but it seems to me that Will Smith wanted to hit him, but didn't want to sit there and give him a beating.
Right. Well, and I mean, Chris Rock has an iron jaw and took it.
Right.
Because he just looked back at him like, now what do I do?
Yeah. Like we're gonna throw down here on the stage in front of God and television and everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bad look. It's not a good look. So
well,
I can't express anything for Jada and Will having some kind of abusive relationship between each other.
We don't know anything about that. We are basing this entirely off of intuition, but intuition of someone whose intuition I have seen before be relatively spot on. So, it's not just, like Alex looked at them and said, I think those people have a great car. And I'm like, Alex doesn't know anything about cars. Right. Alex, no.
Yeah, so we can hear.
I don't know. Other things I kind of observed, like there were things that I think you had posted, Troy, right after it, which was or was it David Coyle? It might have been David Coyle, which was the question about comedians and what they are supposed to be saying. So that's another kind of aspect of this as an artist. I'm running into this a lot with Star Trek right now. Star Trek, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the newest season of Star Trek Picard, they, without giving too many spoilers, they've gone back in time and they're at present day-ish. And we have ICE agents all of a sudden. And the ICE agents are throwing people around and, tossing them in sanctuary districts and locking them away. And people are getting kind of offended by the misrepresentation of ICE. And what I was kind of thinking about was, I feel kind of like all art. It doesn't matter whether it's comedy or Star Trek or me drawing pictures of Baby Yoda. All art is designed to evoke a response. And so to some degree, art is always sort of hyperbolic to some degree.
Orwell famously said that all art is propaganda.
Right. And it's intended to be propaganda. 1984 was supposed to be a warning, not a textbook, but a warning about what we could be at and where we could be. And it wasn't supposed to, it's like when we talk about Gulliver's Travels and it was all a commentary about the king. And of course, the funny part about it is I still don't remember what it was a commentary about because it was completely unrelatable to me. The commentary about Gulliver's Travels was completely unrelatable. I don't know what it means. We grew up in America. We don't have a king. There was no oppression like that. So we don't. I can't understand what the Lilliputians were doing that. You know what I mean? Like and it gets getting explained to me over and over and over, and I forget it because it's not relatable. So you make art to make a relatable statement, and so it's kind of a thing. Bright's saying art is supposed to put a mirror to the world and show us its true self. So the question is, what was Chris Rock supposed to do?
Maybe not make an insult onto somebody who has a medical condition that they can't help.
Maybe. And that's probably a better move. And probably that's exactly what I'm looking for is what's the line? Can I make fun of Troy for his silver headphones? Yeah, because he chose to buy silver headphones. So I can make fun of silver headphones. Can I make fun of Troy for his brown eyes? No. His brown eyes are something he can't change, right? So there's nothing I can do about that, especially if I have blue eyes, right? Because, like Alex might be able to make a joke about Troy's brown eyes because you both have brown eyes. I'm picking on things that are safe.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's like it's do you punch up? Do you kick down?
Mm-hmm.
I was actually thinking about this. I was like recently I was listening to what's his name? Chappelle. Dave Chappelle was at a Not in My Backyard meeting about affordable housing somewhere in or near his neighborhood, and it's like fucking multi-millionaire man. What the fuck?
Right. What do you know? What do you know of
No, I mean, that was not what do you know? It's like, dude, if you have a real problem with poor people moving into your area, you have the means to move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or make them not poor anymore. The thing that I was wondering is usually most of the stuff that people are doing on stage in any event, like the Oscars or whatever, has been scripted.
True.
He may not have even written the joke.
That's true too. Which actually kind of makes me feel bad for Chris Rock, because I think you're right, because that explains a lot of the look on his face.
Yeah.
And the words right after that were, I'm going to keep going, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was like talking to Will saying, we're reading scripts, right?
I don't know. He said it was a G.I. Jane joke, and Will Smith just repeated what he had said, keep my wife's name out of your mouth. And then he said, okay, I'm going to keep going. Funny improvised line would have been if he looked off stage and said, I want a new joke writer.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
That would have at least helped. But I think you're right, Alex. I think the key here was that was, but then there's that level. Okay, so if I were to make gray hair jokes with you, because you've got a little bit of gray now going in the bottom of your beard,
mm-hmm.
It's, if I make a gray hair joke to you, it's sort of like a wand sort of sideways, gray hair sucks, huh? Sort of thing, because we both have gray hair. I'm not picking on something you can't change, because you can't change it. We're all getting older, gray hair. And by the way, your gray hair looks better than mine, and that irritates me. I'm just saying. Anyway.
Sorry, I look better than you. Not
it's
sorry.
True.
But no, and also if we're looking at friends, giving each other shit, and that's the thing. We don't know how close or how distant the relationship. Also, if you and I are at opening events at, a convention on stage, and there is the audience, the context is different.
It's true. Alex has more pepper than salt.
It's like you're making some joke on a national stage. I mean,
but it's risky.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't joke about you and I having a relationship, guy, on stage in front of an audience, because they don't get it. They don't get the joke. And
there's a history, but there's a history that we have. You're right.
And it could easily be interpreted as you and I making fun of same-sex relationships, which we're not.
No.
But I can see how, if you're outside of the know, what we do would be offensive, or could be offensive.
I think people who have been with us long enough on Geek Tank know that you and I are making fun of you and I being uncomfortable about that at a point in our lives, which is something we've talked about a number of times. Because
for me, it's also just the fact that other people make speculations, so I like to feed into the speculation.
Yeah, but I have always read, when we make jokes about you and I being in a relationship, it's sort of like saying, hey, look at us, we've grown up a little and we've gotten better about homosexuality in general. Because I know I have expressed being super uncomfortable with homosexual people in my high school years, in my junior high years, because of the culture and how, if you touched a homosexual, you got AIDS, and all of the pressure that our culture put us in that made me very uncomfortable with homosexual people, and
I think that's where
I'm
we,
very
because
comfortable with it.
you like to talk about our similarities, but I think that's one of the big differences is with my brother being part of the Rocky Horror Picture Show community and being
You
into
got
acting. And
used to it really quick.
from a young age, there was a
Well-
clear divide of those who were religious in my family and my brother, and
There
I looked up to my brother,
Right.
and so therefore I followed that. I'm sorry, I killed Alex.
I think you're killing Alex again. Don't kill Alex. We likes him. But I mean, yeah, and you're right. And I actually grew up in the same way because my mom was a talent agent, and so we had gay actors all the time. But I just was more susceptible, I think, to the rhetoric than you were.
Well, that was a different world too. You had a much
That was
bigger
mom's
age.
friends.
Yeah,
not
those
my
mom's friends, not somebody who was only 9 years older than you. Friends,
Right.
so.
Right. Also, you were playing D&D with or whatever. You were doing things with these people,
Mhm.
whereas I wasn't. They were mom's friends coming in the door, talking to mom, having coffee with mom, and leaving. Nothing happening with me. It
Mhm.
wasn't involved in my life. So, yeah, it wasn't until one of my friends from high school came out, who was really close to me, very, very close to me, and it just sort of snapped that I've been like right next to this guy for literally 2 decades or a decade or whatever since junior high, and never caught AIDS and never caught anything. And he's a nice fellow and yada, yada, yada. Some part of that shifted in my brain.
Mhm.
And
It broke down that wall.
It broke down the wall, and I had no issue from that point forward. So I always interpreted your jokes about that was sort of I acknowledge now that you are past that wall, which still fits. You just never were behind the wall. I was behind that wall, but you weren't, which is fine.
I'm going to go on a tangent.
Yes,
Tangent
do
time here.
do it,
Looking
do it,
here
do
some
it,
of
do
the
it.
comments. We see Chris going to roast Will Smith bad on HBO comedy special. Remember though that Will Smith is also a comedian, actor, rapper. So we might have an A-list celebrity beef going on if they wish to pursue it. Which would be
Well, it's very
pretty
public now.
I think it'd be pretty funny.
It could be entertainment.
The slap heard around the world.
Beef. Diss tracks.
Yeah,
They're coming back.
it's true. I don't know. I feel like it's a shame because I listen to 80s music in the morning prepping up for my shows. The Alexa turns on the 80s music for 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock so that I know that I'm supposed to be getting ready for my show and stuff like that. And I hear Will a lot as Fresh Prince, and he was part of my childhood, and it's kind of one of those things that's like one of the things I loved about Will Smith's raps were they were funny and cute. Even the one he did about Freddy Krueger was still fluffy and cute and entertaining.
Non-threatening hip hop, just like Lisa Simpson's
Non-threatening.
magazine, Non-Threatening Boys.
Right. And hip hop is another one of those art forms that's designed to make you uncomfortable because they're talking about things that are happening. Unfortunately, it makes me too uncomfortable. I admit openly that part of the reason it makes me uncomfortable is because it's a part and aspect of this world that I really wish didn't happen and don't know how to do anything about it. I mean, I know that we've had this discussion numerous times about growing up in the South, growing up watching Black people be abused, knowing that it happens, knowing that it occurs, knowing about the subliminal crap, and then not knowing what to do about it except call it out when I see it, but I don't see it that often anymore.
I would recommend a Netflix documentary series named The Evolution of Hip Hop.
Oh, by Spike Lee.
It is very, very good.
Yeah, I love Spike Lee. So, it is by Spike Lee, yes?
I don't recall.
Because I think it's by Spike
Lee. I
Lee.
watched it and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it's
I feel like it's by Spike Lee, and I really dig him. I love... He is the kind of person who I feel like is similar in style as an artist as I am. I feel very like... his thought processes and where he's going in his art, even though he's doing a different style of art, he's doing a different kind of art. I feel like he's very similar into wanting to put messages down that people catch, in layers.
Is this a
About
movie or a series?
it's a
The Evolution
documentary.
of Hip Hop is a series on Netflix. Just to reply to Donald, yeah, my favorite type of hip hop is the socially conscious stuff. So Public Enemy, Boogie Down Productions, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Hip Hop Evolution 2016 documentary, 4 seasons. It's
Yeah.
called Hip Hop Evolution. Yeah, I'm not seeing Spike Lee on here. So since it was a documentary,
There was another one that's
Spike Lee
by
does
Spike Lee.
movies.
He did it based on Do the Right Thing, which is what he was starting it by, was that. But yeah, I'll watch that.
But for me, that was one of those things where, from a young age, that was how I was able to try to find a connection, was using media, music, and movies, of being able to cross that cultural bridge, of being able to have some kind of insight. And it just, of course, it's become so much better now because there's more people of color making movies and writing movies and such.
out there
Jordan
and
Peele.
able to put out their art. Yeah.
And like, there's a series that I really like. It's not entirely written by, hang on, Donald Glover, but it's produced by him. He stars in it, called Atlanta, and it's I tried to get Tara to watch it, but it's too serious and uncomfortable in a lot of scenes. Especially this, I can't say anything, but it's hard to watch for a reason, though. It's showing you a side of a world, and then since I don't live in that world, I think it's important to watch it so I can see these stories that are being told. Because
Which brings me back to, of course, ICE in Picard.
Star Trek.
Yeah, it's hard to watch for a reason. And I was thinking, a lot of people are complaining right now that Star Trek has always been using allegory, and it's never been on the nose. And first of all, that's not true. Star Trek has been definitely on the nose. I just don't think people have. We've moved into different areas, so watching a black woman kiss a white man doesn't bother anybody anymore. But it did in 1967.
It doesn't bother most of the people that you know. There's still
Right.
a large.
Well, no, I
group
mean,
of
as in
people
like
out
the
there
general consciousness, the general consciousness that's out there has gotten acclimated to it. Now it's when a man kisses a man. In the 90s, it was when a woman kissed a woman. We had that happen too with Jadzia Dax. Terry Farrell kissed another woman, and that melted down the universe. And now we've got Stamets kissing Culber all the time in Discovery, and people are melting down about that. So
I thought it was really depressing that in The Walking Dead, back when we were watching it together, they had the gay kiss together of the two men, and everybody, well, not a bunch of people started on their feed, started saying how horrible it is. How can they show this? You're influencing children. And I'm like, you show zombies' heads getting crushed by cars and gore going everywhere. Who's letting their children watch this, first of all?
So
second of all, why are you cool with this level of violence? Versus
Ira Stephen Bear, who was who's in charge of the showrunner of Deep Space Nine. Ira Stephen Bear refers to a specific incident that had occurred where one of the people had fielded a call from somebody after Dax had kissed another woman, and the guy was like, "What are you teaching? What are you showing and teaching children?" And the producer at the time was a female producer, said, "Would it have been better if Dax had shot the other person and killed her?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, of course." And she said, "Then I feel like your problem is in you, not us." And I was like, and Ira Stephen Bear's like, "We're going to hear about that, but she's not wrong." And he was like, "I endorsed that. And I told her if she gets any repercussion from that, I would back her on that. And I would stand behind her on that." And he was like really big on that. And my respect level went up quite a bit for him on that one. But I really love Ira Stephen Bear anyway. Deep Space Nine's probably still running my favorite of all the Star Treks, even though Lower Decks is definitely a close second, a very, very close second.
So on a Star Trek, so I mean, how's season 2 of Picard? I've only seen season 1.
Season 2 of Picard's much better than season 1. They're moving in a different direction that's fascinating and interesting. I'm also noticing that the Trekkies, the hater Trekkies, are having a hard time picking on what's wrong with it. So they're now nitpicking little teeny things into the nth degree.
Anti-fans.
Yeah, it's hard.
So I was going to bring up something there.
Go to sleep, Donald. Take care of yourself, my
before
friend.
Before Donald goes to sleep, since I have both Donald and Brent on here, and this is like totally rabbit holing based on him talking about playing poker later tonight. This has come up, and I kind of need to get a feel from the nether as to people who play poker at conventions. Do you go there to play poker at conventions? And if it wasn't poker and it was some other game similar to poker, such as Japanese version of poker, but different rules and different cards, would that still have the same appeal and draw you there or not? And you guys can answer in the comments section.
Okay, well, they're typing out their answers. I think we need to thank our sponsors.
Yes.
Thank our sponsors. Hang on. I'm clicking the banner thingy. Here we go. Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, and your
mom.
All right.
I need to find out from Kieran. I need to talk to Kieran Games about getting a box of booster draft packs for Kamigawa, because I kind of want to run a Kamigawa booster draft tournament at NDK.
Yeah.
So,
I was just talking to Nate a couple of days ago. He's doing really well, and I'm glad to hear that. I'd been worried because I hadn't heard from him in a while, and so
selling them homes.
I'll play Sabak. Oh yeah, that would be wild. Or 3D chess. I mean, that's another one that's an interesting thing to discuss. Is what do you do when you have internal games? Like 3D chess has convoluted rules. But they were all built in the 70s. The rules were, of course, after Star Trek aired. So if you go back and watch the original series, they're not playing by any rules. They're just moving pieces around onto different levels and stuff. And so it's kind of fascinating. And so I wonder whether Sabak has the same thing. We just saw them playing it on Star Wars, and we don't know what the rules really were because they really didn't have them. However, interestingly enough, Discovery Season 4, they're playing a card game. And knowing that it would happen, they actually made all the rules for the card game. So when you watch them playing on there, they actually let them play this variation on poker, the Star Trek version of poker, happen. And they let it go down. And everything that they are saying, all the actors, they're actually saying attributes and traits of this game that they created. So you technically will be able to play that somewhere down the road. And I thought that's awareness, because we all know that Trekkies will play 3D chess, but they don't know.
I bought the board game that they had used for one of the Next Generation episodes, and I was trying to find the name here so I don't have to lean around my bookshelf to see it. But there was a board game that was being played back in the 90s, and all they did is they took the pieces and like spray painted one side white and the other side black, and they're like little bubbles that you move around on a map. But I'd found a copy used of the game that they had spray painted, and so I'm like, well, I'm going to buy this. I'm probably not going to spray paint it, but since it's used. But yeah, they were following the same pattern from the original series in Next Gen, where they'd probably just send somebody out to a thrift shop to buy stuff to put on set.
Yep. So Donald's saying he
Ferengi Holden.
Cons. So Donald, I know what Troy's after. He's trying to figure out whether people play poker at NDK because they go from con to con playing poker, or are they playing poker at NDK because they like to compete at various conventions, but they don't care what it is. It doesn't.
We're trying to figure out if it's worth having poker at NDK or not.
Poker doesn't fit NDK's thing. Poker isn't Japanese. So I'm
Play
having
poker in
as yeah, but it's not a Japanese oriented thing. So Troy and I have been trying to figure out whether playing mahjong would still get the poker players to come in to play mahjong, or would they just say, nah, screw it, we're only here to play poker. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Not mahjong specifically, because that's a little complicated. But and I found other things, by the way. So
But yeah, since you were the two that I thought of that I remembered saying that you played poker.
you played poker. So the
a
question
lot.
was, what do you think if we had there used to be poker at NDK, but we downgraded poker because it's not part of the 504c3. Now we're talking about should we bring it back, but again, it's still not part of the Japanese culture thing. So the question is, what level should we come in on? So you guys who are poker players, if you were coming to NDK to play poker, do you come to play poker, or do you just come to compete with the other guys?
Would poker make the difference of even showing up? Kind of like
right. Yeah, that's the thing. If we do or do not have poker, does that change whether you would come to NDK?
Does that ticket sale happen or not?
Right.
And the way they do it is charity poker, similar to what they've done at other conventions that we've seen. So it's free to play, but if you want a shot at getting half of the money, the pot, and the other half going to charity, you have to buy into that.
Right.
So, but you can totally play for free. You just don't win the money aspect of it.
Right. And we're looking at other things that are more Japanese oriented. Like there is a Japanese kind of game that involves flower cards.
We're exploring our possibilities.
Yeah.
But there have been some people that have said stuff like it has to be, you need to bring back poker because of how awesome it is. And we're trying to figure out, is that just their opinion, or is there really enough people out there to justify that?
Right. The question really boils down to, could we, kind of like when Alex brings in games, can he bring in Galaga because everybody has Galaga tournaments or whatever? It doesn't really fit the video gaming structures of bringing in Japanese-esque video games. So, but if everybody's playing it, that's the question.
In any case, I didn't want to take too much time on it, but it needed more explanation because they were confused.
Poker's pretty fun. It's really not playing against, you're playing against the people, not with the cards.
Right.
And personally,
important to the people.
Yeah, it's personally, I like playing against people with swords in our hands more than I do poker. That's me. I get it.
Yeah, I do that a lot with you these days. Not these days, but before these days.
Some days, these days, post these days, once you're stretched out.
Yeah. My back's getting better though. So
all right.
Although it hasn't been better this last week, but it's been better in general. So we've kind of gotten to the last 10 minutes of our show.
Yeah. I was also thinking about to just bring back I should have written more down. Like going back to the slap versus the punch, it's like Will Smith played Muhammad Ali in a feature film and had to portray a competent to excellent, had to be at least competent to play an excellent boxer.
Yeah, he knows how to
he knows how to punch.
That was what when you were saying that, you were like, it was different between the fist and the hand. I'm like, yeah, except I've punched enough things now that if I wanted to punch, I'd punch.
Yeah, you don't get knuckles.
Yeah, you don't get knuckles.
Like these.
You don't get knuckles unless you're hitting things. And you and I, we've done martial arts long enough now that if I want to punch, I'll punch.
Yeah.
So he's an action star. So even not just Muhammad Ali, but he's done like multiple Bad Boys.
Yeah, Donald, don't worry.
The Bad Boys movies.
Don't worry about the legal ramifications. We've got that under control. We've had poker for years and years and years. We had poker, but I got rid of it whenever I switched to Troy being in charge of that division because it doesn't fit the 504c3, and I really want it to fit our mission statement. So this has been something that I've been really trying to get Troy to work on for a while. and Troy's having some
Well,
problems with it.
We were going to do mahjong, but nobody
So-
knows mahjong.
Yeah, Troy's having some problems with it, understandably so, because it's difficult. We don't know whether people are playing poker because they like to have a straight and a full house and a flush,
Or
and
it's a
yada,
comfortable
yada,
game. It's a game that
Or-
they're comfortable with, and
or are they playing because they like to be sitting at a table with other people gambling for something.
Mhm.
If that's the draw, then we can pick something else to gamble with.
yeah, because supposedly the poker tournament thing brought in a lot of money for the charity.
It did.
So the higher ups don't want to ignore that as an avenue to helping their charity more.
Right. So that's really kind of what we're looking for, is as people who actually do this, because I don't gamble. It doesn't have a draw for me, but some people really like the draw. The only gambling I do, boy, is I love to buy magic packs and open them.
It's a
That is
losing
such
game. It's a
gambling.
losing game. The professor says so.
It's so losing game. The
Professor
house
proves
always
it.
wins.
Proves it. That's right.
No,
But
so
I loves it so much.
well, I mean, because there is a ton of there are a ton of classic Japanese casino games.
Yeah.
You see them in samurai films all the time,
Right. Well, that's what we were
and-
talking about.
and
Was
Zatoichi films and stuff.
and so
Um,
the idea is, can we do that?
Yeah, it's like if you interest and stuff, or do you have to like do some kind of weird compromise, like we're gonna get actual Nintendo manufactured playing cards to play poker with.
Right. Well, that's the last compromise going all the way down, is that we make NDK specific poker cards, but I still feel like that's not really in the vein of what I was hoping the dojo would do anyway, which was play games and teach you some of the stuff that's going on in the Japanese culture, like Japanese games or games about Japan or something like that. It seems like that's not what I was headed for when I was trying to restructure the dojo to begin with.
Yeah, Brent, we do pachinko in the VGR, and all proceeds for pachinko go to charity.
Yep, they're in the VGR room. And it's astonishing that you don't have, I mean, anybody who's ever been into a real pachinko parlor, oh my God. The volume level is so loud, and then the smoke just rolls out from all the cigarettes. It's brutal. So we don't have that. That's, part of the experience that we've decided not to.
Although I've already pre-sold collector decks of cards for NDK if they put in the badges, the old badge artwork,
Mhm.
because people will come to me and say, "We'll totally buy those." I'm like, "Well, if they get made, I'll let you know."
Yeah, we've thought about that, and we've discussed it a couple of times, and there's a number of things going on right now. This will be your first NDK. That's all right.
No worries. I was just saying that I was just saying like, don't make guy take my pachinko, or that's what we got, Yeah, come on out, have a good time.
So
We also
if
have
you guys are
something
wondering
else in
what's
the
going
works.
on, Troy is the area head for the live gaming room, and Alex is the area head for the video gaming room, and I am Troy's director. And I'm not Alex's director. And someday, either Alex will be handed to me or Troy will be handed to Jeremy, one of the two. But the two of them need to be in the same group because they can pass information back and forth to each other.
Well, it's also both gaming. Makes sense to have both gaming.
It will
groups.
be Labor Day weekend. So
And,
it's going to be the first weekend of September.
And live gaming, a better explanation. That's tabletop board gaming, because you play video games live. So I always thought live gaming was just a bad name, so we call it the dojo tabletop.
Yeah, we
gaming.
call it the dojo because you're supposed to be learning Japanese things too. But yeah, so just so you know, that's one of the reasons we're having this discussion, is because all three of us, this is a topic that definitely is in our wheelhouse of one degree or another. Not only that, it's not like Alex does not, in fact, play Magic or anything. So
technically, doesn't Day Zero start September 1st?
but I don't know whether we're doing Day Zero stuff yet. So
Okay.
we don't know whether there's a
The
Thursday.
last 2 Day Zeros, I made sure to have some board games out and ready for people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to have Day Zero, but I don't want to say anything because nobody said anything at the last board meeting. So, which reminds me, today I've got to send out my email to all of you guys about the board meeting, because I spent last week scrambling to get ready or getting cleared from the last convention. So
Yeah.
if I don't get this email out now, you won't hear it again until after Wicked West. So
Yeah.
I won't wait that long. So,
And then we'll slap you.
right?
Yeah. And
Not
but we
fist.
gotta,
It'll be an open hand.
yeah, we have a couple arcade stand-ups. I think we should continue this discussion offline.
Yep. Well, Donald, if you were to come to NDK, you would be hanging out with Troy, probably because game rooms.
Hey,
And we're all on one floor for the most part. I mean, it's all on one floor. It's a huge floor.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
charge the batteries before you come. Charge the batteries all the way up because the Gaylord is massive. Massive, massive, massive. Bigger than I expected. My 49-year-old bones are not taken so kindly to it. And there'll be 50-year-old bones when we get there this year. And they're not taken kind.
we can always stick Guy in a Sailor Moon costume.
I'll go in a Sailor Moon. We got Troy in a Pikachu costume.
There's my children.
I have to say that knowing a
Troy's
lot about
kids in
Greek
Pikachu costumes.
What was that, Guy? Or Alex?
I have to say I was disappointed in watching some Sailor Moon and knowing a lot about Greek mythology. It's like, why is that sailor the sailor who's the guardian of time? This should be Sailor Kronos or I guess Saturn. That makes more sense. What is this?
Sailor Saturn is like a completely different critter.
Yes, but Saturn, Kronos, is time,
It's the time.
all devouring.
As opposed to Pluto, which is what it is in the Sailors.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not Hades' job. What is this?
Yeah, but they're all fluffy girls. They're not going to make her the guardian of death. So Sailor Pluto has to be the protector, the mom of everybody, which I find interesting. Because you're right, it's totally out of mythology. It's out of sync. She chose her own mythology.
Question marks were around my head watching like her.
Yeah, I don't know. Sailor Saturn, though, like her silent wall, sometimes makes me think there's something else going on that she can do. There's something about time involved with her. It's just that it's not because she's all at the same time. She's like a 9-year-old and a 15-year-old with the rest of them at the same time, and it just depends on where we are in the arcs, and she goes back and forth.
Oh,
so
okay.
There is something going on.
I've not seen that much, so.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot going on with. She's my favorite sailor, Senshi. She's like, because she's got that the silent wall with her glaive is like the most powerful of the whole thing. We already did our sponsors.
Yeah, we did. You missed it. We did our
You missed
sponsors.
I reminded them about 15 minutes ago.
Kieran Games and your mom. So
all right. Well, we are at 11 o'clock.
That's it. I think we've run out of time. Alex, I'll see you in just a little bit though. So it's not a problem. But yeah, okay. Well, I guess that's pretty much it then. We'll see you all next week. And until then, I've been Guy.
I've been Troy. Oh, is he frozen up?
I think Alex froze. So he's not Alex anymore. But this is
I've been Alex. Okay.
Alex.
All right. Good night,
This
everybody. Have a good day, everybody. It looks like he bombed out.
We're still live because you didn't hit the button.
Oh, all right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.